So Turki Al-Sheikh and Dana White have joined forces for a new boxing league. Watch this video. Hello, welcome to Tommy Edson. I hope you're all well. So the news that came out a couple of days ago, of course, the Turki Al-Sheikh of the Riyadh season. He's teamed up with Dana White of the UFC and TKO to form this new boxing league, but also to take over boxing. Look, if you're into boxing, just like I am, and I'm sure if you're watching this, you are, of course, into it as well. You would be always frustrated with the number of bouts that are available and, you know, world champion here, world champion there, but you're never really sure who's world champion, the number one, unless you get a unification, unless you get an undisputed, let's say with Usyk, let's say with Crawford, let's say with Canelo in the past, whoever. Whenever you've got an undisputed, that is the number one guy or girl. But we've got so many bouts. So now with the UFC model, as it were, and then you're going in with Turki Al-Sheikh and Dana White, they're going to come together to, well, maybe jeopardize all the bouts. And you say, no, all the fighters are going to fight under this system, and they're going to fight each other, the best versus the best. And eventually, we're just going to have one champion, one world champion. That's it. Now, most people would say, yeah, that's absolutely great. But I have a few questions about this whole thing before people kind of get carried away. Because I know there's lots of YouTube channels, lots of commentators kind of getting really excited at the prospect, Dana White and Turki Al-Sheikh running boxing or the future of boxing, another model of boxing. I get it. It is very exciting. But there's something I want to ask. So first of all, with the existing bouts, they are run as corporations, let's say. So if the leader or the CEO drops dead tomorrow, retires, and there's somebody to replace him. So it has longevity. It can keep on going through the generations. My question's always been about Riyadh season, about Turki Al-Sheikh. Well, what happens if something happens to him? Who's going to step up and be as enthusiastic as he is for boxing? Is there anybody who's going to take it on for the future? What about Saudi Arabia as a nation? Are they going to continue to want to invest in boxing in the future? Now, it could be that they want to invest for another 10, 20 years, 30 years. Who knows? But what about in 10, 20, 30 years? They say, no, we don't want to do this anymore. So what happens to boxing then? What happens to the future of boxing? Whereas with the likes of the WBC, WBO, well, it'll always be guaranteed because you're always going to have people just taking over the mantle, as it were. So that's one thing. I want to question, well, what is the future? What's the future security under the Dana White and Turki Al-Sheikh model? The other thing is, well, you're going to get boxers coming in, and I get it. You want to get grassroots boxers to join in, but this is going to take about 10 years, 10, 15 years, really, to make it a force, to build it up, and maybe 5 years, who knows. But in other words, it's not going to happen overnight. Now, you will get some elite boxers, world champions right now, who will start fighting under it, but most won't. Most will just come in for the money, but they're still going to value those bouts that they currently have. So there's going to be a long transition period. I don't think this is going to happen overnight either. The question is, what will the relationship be between Turki Al-Sheikh and Dana White, for that matter, with the existing boxing promoters and also all the bouts? You know, what will happen there? Are they still going to have these bouts? Will they be as valued? Or is Turki Al-Sheikh and Dana White going to say, no, we're just washing our hands completely of that? I wouldn't be surprised if they say, right, we're going to buy everybody out. We're going to buy out the WBC. We're going to buy out the IBF. We're going to buy out whatever. We're going to buy out Eddie Hearn. We're going to buy out Frank Warren and everything like that. So if I was Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn and anybody from Top Rank or, you know, Golden Boy, Oscar De La Hoya or anybody like that, I'd be kind of a bit concerned. I'd be concerned about, yes, I'm sure they can have short-term gain in terms of millions and millions and millions, but long-term, they could be out of business, or medium to long-term, they could be out of business. So the future of boxing under the Turki Dana White model, I'm not sure about in terms of what happens if one of them drops dead or something like that. You know, what is going to happen in the future after these two go away? And we're talking 20, 30 years down the line here, of course. They don't have to drop dead. You know, they could just retire, of course, right? but also what happens to boxing as a whole during this transition period. The other thing I'm kind of questioning is, well, it's all well and good having this elite boxing league and taking boxers, under their stewardship, let's say, into this new boxing league. But what happens to the rest of boxing? Because boxing just isn't the stadium fights. It isn't, just York Hall. It isn't just, Riyadh season. It isn't just Las Vegas. It isn't just, there are lots of boxing shows all over the country, in every country around the world, where they're really small, local events. So what happens to that? How does that tie in to the boxing league under Turki Al-Sheikh and Dana White? They surely can't take that. They surely have nothing to do with that. So that's still going to have to come under the existing boxing federations, and also ultimately into the 4 bouts, or the 5 bouts if you want to class the IBO, of course. So it's a little bit uncertain. I think there's lots of people are kind of getting carried away here with the prospect, and on the face of it, it kind of settles all the frustrations of a lot of boxing fans, mine included. You've got too many world champions. This is ridiculous. You'd only have one world champion. The UFC model of one world champion in a weighted division works great. The other thing that I'm not sure people have kind of identified with the UFC, but they can't hold the monopoly on fighters. Yes, they put the fan first, but the fighter is way down the pecking order. Yes, they get more money, as per fighter, as average fighter, than a boxer would. But at the same time, they're completely tied to the UFC. So I'm just wondering whether the boxers will be completely tied to Turki Al-Sheikh and Dana White's new league, in that they're not allowed to have any outside sponsorship or anything like that. They can't have any outside deals. It all comes under this kind of monopoly, this grand master. And I'm not so sure that's a good thing. I've never really particularly liked that. In fact, in the UFC, that's been a big criticism as well. So what happens there? Listen, I think this is great. The potential is great. If it shakes it up a little bit, but I'm not sure. I'm just not sure about it. I just have questions that have yet to be answered. Now, if Turki Al-Sheikh comes out and says, okay, this answer for that question, this answer for that question, we have a plan in place. I get it. I'm just not sure that it's proven enough. It's still only just a couple of years into the game here. And I'm just wondering whether 5 years down the line, it could easily fall apart here. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Look, I don't want to pour water on this whole affair, but at the same time, there's something that needs to be answered. And I just question whether, for the good of all boxing, whether this is the right thing. In other ways, it would. Now, could it be that it goes in parallel with, the other 4 bouts or 5 bouts, let's say? Well, this is what they don't want. Turki Al-Sheikh says, I want to crush everybody. Well, I always said about Turki Al-Sheikh, watch out promoters, because at some point he's going to want to take over everything. And I'm right. I was right. This is exactly what's going to happen. So if you likes of Frank Warren and Andy Hearn, you're going to be thinking, what the hell's going on? Where do we fit in this? In the long term, in the short term, I'm sure they're going to be, licking their lips. But in the long term, they're going to have to watch themselves. And Turki Al-Sheikh is going to take over and they bring it all in house. But I'm not sure if it's good for all of boxing. For the elite stuff, yes, I get it. For the absolute elite stuff. But what about all the feeding into that? How is that controlled? How is that governed? Who does all that? This is what we've got to find out. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you like what I do here, hey, don't forget the links in the description for the website, all the sporting books, boxing scorecards and everything like that. You go check them out on the website. But the future of boxing and Turki Al-Sheikh and Dana White, it could be great, or it could be an absolute disaster. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you like what I do here, well, just keep on watching the videos, and I'll catch you again. Bye now.